freeze on the ink. 3,250 meters, confirmed kill. If that number is true, it isn't bragging, it is 12 lives that did not end that day. In the quiet armory of Sentinel Range Complex, Idaho, where the air hangs heavy with the scent of gun oil and the faint clank of metal, echoes a lone figure works in the shadows. Under the dim flicker of fluorescent lights, Claire Ghost Whitfield moves with the precision of a master craftsman. Her petite frame, clad in a worn camouflage uniform, belies the strength in her hands as they glide over the Barrett 82A1, a sniper rifle nearly as long as she is tall. Each component is disassembled with care, cleaned with surgical calm, and set aside in perfect order. To the untrained eye, Claire is just another soldier performing routine maintenance. But her sharp, unyielding eyes tell a different story, one of a storm waiting to break. At 28, Claire has learned how easily quiet competence can be overlooked. Around her, the armory stirs with easy chatter and the jangle of tools, but few spare her more than a passing glance. She is used to it, the sidelong looks, the casual underestimation, the assumption that such a rifle does not belong in hands like hers. As she polishes the Barrett's barrel, her mind drifts to a winter night years ago on a ridge in Wyoming sky, clear and hard with stars. Her father, a grizzled former search and rescue marksman with wind-burned cheeks and patient eyes, pressed a worn stock into her shoulder. "Claire," he said, voice steady as the cold. "When the world doubts you, slow your breath, read the wind, and prove it wrong." The lesson stayed through lean seasons, through long training days, into a life built on skill instead of noise. Belonging, however, is still hard won at Sentinel. Specialist Brent Cole, a cocky 24-year-old with a smirk that never quite fades, saunters past her bench. "Kid, that rifle's bigger than you," he says. Light voice dipped in condescension. "Stick to paperwork, it's more your speed." Claire's hands pause for the briefest beat, fingers tightening on cold steel. The sting of the remark is familiar, a thin blade that never surprises. She does not answer. She rarely does. Her gaze returns to the work, edge sharp and steady, while a quiet fire gathers behind it. She knows what they do, not that discipline outlasts chatter, and skill speaks when it must. Across the armory, Private Ethan Daniels leans toward Cole, voice low. You see the tattoo on her forearm. He nods toward Claire without pointing. Says, 3,250 mirrored confirmed kill. No way that's real. Cole snorts, eyes narrowing. A fake, probably. No one shoots that far, especially not her. The whisper carries a slow poison threading through the room. Claire hears it, but her face remains a mask of focus. The ink on her forearm, a single line of black text, marks a truth she has carried in silence. It is not a boast. It is a date she will not forget, a wind she still remembers, and a small group of people who went home alive. The armory doors swing open, and Brigadier General Thomas Whitaker steps in presence, alone settling the noise. At 50, Whitaker is a seasoned officer whose face is scored by duty and long years in uniform. His weekly inspections are routine eyes moving over racks of rifles, hands tracing checklists he could recite in his sleep. He passes Claire's station without a second glance, notes the clean lines of the Barrett, and keeps going. Just another soldier, he thinks, until a glint of ink catches his eye. He stops mid-step, boots scuffing concrete, and leans closer. On Claire's forearm, he reads the small, spare line, 3,250 minutes confirmed kill. The air seems to tighten. Whitaker's brow furrows, mind-turning. He has worked with excellent snipers. He knows the edge of possibility. 3,250 meters lives beyond bravado. It lives where patience, physics, and mercy meet. Soldier, he says at last, voice quiet, but edge that tattoo. It's impossible. No one makes a shot at that distance. Claire looks up, and her calm unsettles him more than any protest would. "Sir," she replies, tone steady but guarded. "The shot was observed by multiple eyes and logged by mission command. The details are classified." Whitaker studies her, searching for a seam in the composure and finding none. The words are measured, professional, and heavier than they sound. Around them, the room thins into a hush. A few heads turn, then look away. Cole at a distance lets his smirk falter, a flicker of unease crossing it. Daniels whispers again. "Told you it's gotta be fake," but Whitaker does not indulge the rumor. Something in the quiet efficiency at Claire's bench, something in the way she respects the machine, tells him more is hidden here than a line of ink. He turns to his aide, Lieutenant Colonel Nora Hale, a no-nonsense officer with a reputation for precision and a watchdog's eye for procedure. Hale pull her file. "I want to know who this soldier is." Hale nods, silver-streaked hair catching the light as she glances toward Claire. "Sir, likely a clerical error," she says, skepticism crisp. 250 meters, I'd bet my oak leaves it isn't real." Claire's jaw tightens, her hands do not tremble. She returns to the work reassembling pieces in silence, while the question she never volunteers hangs unspoken. The tattoo is small and unassuming. Its story is not. Numbers alone do not show the ridge, the waiting, the thin window, when wind finally steadied. They do not show a dozen faces who got to see morning. But here in a room that respects facts and forms, the number now sits like a weight on the ledger. What story lies behind those digits, and how did a soldier so easily dismissed by idle talk find herself standing where most would not? What truth does the 3,294 meter on Claire's arm conceal? If you have ever been underestimated, stay with her. This is how doubt begins to change. An impossible number. A quiet soldier. Can discipline turn doubt into truth? The armory at Sentinel Range Complex still hums with fluorescent light and the low music of tools. But after the tattoo is noticed, the air seems to change weight. Brigadier General Thomas Whitaker stands motionless, gaze fixed on the ink along Claire Ghost Whitfield's forearm. 250 meters, confirmed kill. The words do not shout. They simply exist like a boundary line on a map that veterans know is real, even if few cross it. Claire, 28, sits calmly at her bench. Her hands reassemble the Barrett M82A1 with the quiet rhythm of someone who has memorized not only parts, but purpose. Around her small movements stall. A wrench pauses. A case lid stays open. Specialist Brent Cole leans against a rack, smirk, parked where it always is, while Private Ethan Daniels cannot help stealing glances toward the forearm he's just whispered about. Claire's focus does not crack. If anything, it grows narrower, like a lens settling into sharpness. Whitaker steps closer, boot heels clipping once against concrete. His voice is low, and even the tone of a man who has outlived many tempers. "Soldier. That tattoo, 3,250 meters. No one makes a shot at that distance. Explain." Claire meets his eyes. No defensiveness, no boast. "Sir," she says, "the shot was observed by multiple eyes and logged by mission command. Documentation remains classified." The words land softly, and yet their weight is felt. Whitaker does not look away. He has seen 1,000 meters, humbled by heat shimmer. 1,500, unraveled by wind shears. 250 lives where the Earth's slow-turning commands respect. He considers brows pinched, not by anger, but by arithmetic air density temperature gradients. Bullet drop over seconds long enough to breathe twice the subtle nudge of Coriolis that only matters when you dare the horizon. Beside him, Lieutenant Colonel Nora Hale steps forward. Hale is the kind of officer who loves procedures because they save lives. She has the patience of a ledger and the memory of a file room. "General," she says, crisp with respect. 3,250 meters is beyond our doctrine's practical envelope. I will verify via personnel records. The skepticism is procedural, not personal. She is loyal to the form because the form has kept funerals few. Whitaker raises a hand, once giving permission without drama. Hale pulls a tablet, thumbs a string of credentials and scrolls. Her voice stays clipped as she reads Staff Sergeant Claire Whitfield. Top marks at sniper school. Advanced long-range precision. Ballistic computation. Reconnaissance. Multiple deployments. Notations indicate assignments with units redacted. She pauses, frowns at the black bars that blot lines of text. General, the record is abridged. Significant segments are redacted. That in itself is unusual. Cole's smirk resurfaces, hungry for doubt. Or it's a mistake, he murmurs to no one in particular. People love stories. Claire's hands pause mid-motion above the long receiver, then continue, steady, deliberate. She has met this kind of moment before, a room that wants the answer to be simple, because simple is easier to file. She sets the barrel down gently, like placing a sleeping child, where it will not be disturbed. Sir, she says, looking to Whitaker again, a 250-meter shot does not begin with the trigger. It begins with reading wind at multiple layers, not just at the muzzle. It demands patience for a stable window, accurate range estimation, and verified atmospherics, pressure, temperature, density, altitude. Coriolis can move a bullet at those ranges. So can a slight crosswind halfway to target. The computer gives a solution. The shooter corrects it with reality. Hale's eyes lift from the tablet. Even if so, the claim requires demonstration of baseline capability. Within safety limits. There is no flare of pride in Claire's reply, only the clean click of a decision already thought through. Yes, ma'am. 200 meters would demonstrate precision without exceeding range controls here. Cole exhales a laugh, folding his arms. 1,200. That's already a reach. We could save time and ink. Daniel says nothing, but his face flickers. Half doubt, half wondering what it would feel like to be wrong. Whitaker studies Claire a long moment, moving his gaze from the tattoo to the rifle and back to the person holding it. He has seen soldiers wobble under far lighter scrutiny. She does not wobble. There is something modest in the stillness. No defiance, only readiness. When he speaks, the decision is simple. Hale, coordinate with range control. Set conditions for a 200-meter demonstration. Targets wind instrumentation observers' safety. Whatever Staff Sergeant Whitfield requires under regulation, she has. Hale nods already, drafting in her head the checklists she trusts medics on standby comms. Clear ammunition accounted, range flags up. Yes, sir. She slides the tablet under her arm and makes a short note. No shortcuts for herself as much as for the paperwork. Whitaker turns back to Claire. Soldier, there is a gulf between paperwork and proof. You are calm. That helps. But calm does not move a bullet through air. We will see the rest. Yes, sir, she says. No more, no less. The room inhales again, sound returning in small pieces, a drawer pushed shut, a stool creaking. Cole lifts his chin to catch someone's eye and finds fewer willing to meet it. Daniels clears his throat and looks at his boots. Claire returns to her task, seating components with care that reassures the onlooker, even if they don't know why. The tattoo on her arm, small, unadorned, has become a kind of bell. It has been rung, and now the building listens for the echo. As Whitaker and Hale move toward the door, Hale stops just once. Staff Sergeant, she says, not unkind. You will submit any personal ballistic logs relevant to the demonstration. Of course, ma'am, Claire replies. And I'll walk observers through my process out loud. Plain English. She glances around the room, not to win anyone, simply to set terms with the air. If we are going to do this, we do it clean. They leave. The door sighs closed. The hum resumes, but something unseen has shifted. Idle talk feels costly now. Cole rubs his jaw, covering the absence of a grin with motion. Daniels pretends to inventory a case of optics and counts to 10 twice. Claire wipes a last smudge from the Barrett's barrel. She does not speed up or slow down. The work has its own pace, the same pace she learned on a cold Wyoming ridge. Wait for the wind to tell the truth. Outside the range, flags are still. They will not stay that way. Can Claire do what Hale deems impossible? Stay with her. This is where doubt meets discipline. Behind a thin line of ink lies a winter ridge, 12 lives, and a habit of doing hard things quietly. In the armory at Sentinel Range Complex, Claire Ghost Whitfield keeps her hands moving with that careful cadence seniors recognize from good craft, slow enough to notice, exact enough to trust. The faint hum of fluorescent lights, the small clanks of steel, and the soft rasp of oiled cloth give the room its heartbeat. Yet another weight hums under those sounds, the growing murmur that trails her forearm. 200 meters confirmed. Kill like a shadow. The whispers have sharpened since morning. SPC. Brent Cole lets a thought slip at the edge of a workbench, just loud enough to carry. Put Ethan Daniels listens uncomfortable but curious. Claire hears them all and chooses the oldest skill she owns. She stays with the work. Bolt carrier seated. Receiver checked. Magazine spring inspected. Her breath is steady in the way a good marksman breathes, half for oxygen, half for patience. Memory slides in without permission. Not Detroit. Not anyone's headline. Just Wyoming. A ridge under a sky so clean it almost rang. She was 12. Her father, a volunteer search and rescue marksman, had taught her to trust what the land tells you. He kept the lesson simple: when the wind and the numbers disagree, let the wind win. It was never about glory. It was about bringing people home. Back in the armory, Cole leans into a small knot of soldiers. You heard the story, right? He says, voice trimmed to sound reasonable. The tattoo is theater. I heard she got flagged for cheating at sniper school. Messed with logs. You don't get a number like that without a trick. His grin is thin. Rumor likes confidence even when confidence is wrong. Claire sets the Barrett M82A1 scope into its rings and threads the caps on with 2 fingers. The touch is calm, but the accusation lands hard. Not because it is original, it never is, but because it lets people file her under a simpler label than the truth. She does not speak to Cole. She speaks to the rifle in the way old hands sometimes talk to their tools, by treating it carefully. Her mind crosses to sniper school, and to a week the range called mirage season. The air above the dirt wavered like heat off a road. Instructors taught students to read those shimmers. For wind, a left-to-right river, a boil straight up. Claire was the youngest in her group, and the only one who kept redacted assignments on her record. Her group stayed tight anyway. People began to talk. One instructor, jaw set like a vice, stopped her after a clean string. "No way that's you," he said, contempt, quiet, not loud. "Your log is too perfect." She remembers how the air tasted dry with a little copper from dust. She asked for a public retest. Under a white sun and a line of eyes, she laid out what she would do before she did it. In words a new recruit could follow. Check density altitude. Watch the downrange grass, not just the range flag. Call the mirage like water in a ditch. Trust the computer. Then trust the wind more. Shot. 1 broke clean. Shot 2, kissed the first. Shot 3, told the instructor there was no trick, only work. Someone said ghost after that, not because she was fast, but because she was quiet and exact. The present returns with the soft click of the scope cap seating. The rumor that Cole has revived cheating is not even precise. The investigation then was about whether her logs were too perfect to be real. The conclusion was that her process was repeatable, visible, and disciplined. People who wanted a story kept the accusation and dropped the result. That happens in every profession, across the complex brig. General Thomas Whitaker sits with Lieutenant Colbert and Nora Hale in a small office that smells like coffee and paper. Hale has Claire's file open again, and the black bars of redaction draw the eye like bruises. Top of class, advanced long range, ballistic computation, recon, deployments noted units redacted. Hale reads, the pattern is consistent with sensitive assignments. Whitaker does not answer right away. He had asked for facts. Hale has brought them. He touches the corner of the tablet, thinking not of rumor, but of physics, and of the men and women he has buried. If she is what that ink says, our duty is to see it clearly, and use it responsibly, he says. If she is not, our duty is to correct it cleanly. Hale nods. For her, procedure is not a cage, it is a guardrail. The 200-meter demonstration will be decisive, sir. With observers, with instrumentation, with her process explained. Back in the armory, Cole's voice rises careless with the confidence a crowd can lend. I'm telling you, she's no sniper. Faked her way through training. That tattoo, marketing. Daniels shifts his weight. He's young enough to doubt and to hope at the same time. He glances toward Claire, then away, then back again. Claire's hands still for one heartbeat. Anger brushes by and moves on. She has lived long enough with these moments to let them pass like wind across a muzzle. She thinks of the demonstration Whitaker has ordered. For some, it is a show. For her, it is simply work done in the open. She will bring her ballistic logs, her range card, her wind calls written in plain words. She will narrate what she does as she does it, because seniors who watch deserve to understand how something is done, not just that it was. She places the scope wrench down and wipes a small smudge from the barrel crown. Every motion is a vow no one hears. Not drama, just promise. Set conditions. Measure honestly. Shoot when the air is ready, not when the room is loud. Across the base, Whitaker rubs a thumb along the spine of an old notebook he keeps for thoughts that should not be typed. He writes a line. Calm is a start. Proof is the rest. Then another. If her claim is true, 12 people are alive because someone waited for wind. He closes the book and nods to Hale. Make sure no shortcuts are taken, he says. If she passes, it means something. If she fails, it must be for the right reasons. Hale is already building the checklist. She trusts medics on standby comms, checks, wind masts, spotter glass ammo, audit, safety flags, observer positions. She dislikes theater. She will build a range event that tells the truth. Evening light cools the armory's hard edges. Daniels walks past Claire's bench and slows. He does not apologize for the rumor he did not start. He does the smaller, braver thing, ma'am. Will you explain the Coriolis part tomorrow? In plain English, Claire looks up, and for the first time today, a corner of her mouth lifts. Think of the earth turning under a long flying bullet, she says. It nudges a little. We account for that nudge. Daniels nods, relieved to be allowed into the circle where questions are not punished. The room settles. Cole busies himself with a case he has already closed twice. Claire checks the torque one last time and stows the wrench. The tattoo on her arm is small, ordinary to anyone who does not know, extraordinary to those who do. It is not a challenge tossed at the world. It is a date, a distance, a wind that finally steadied, and 12 people who got to see morning. She gathers her kit with the quiet of someone who has learned to keep a steady center. Doubt will show up at the range tomorrow. It always does. So will discipline. And discipline tends to stay longer. Is the rumor of cheating truth, or just the easy story people tell when the numbers scare them? Stay with her. The wind is about to have its say. One measured shot. No shortcuts. Let the wind, not the rumor, decide. Dawn lays a pale band across the Sentinel Range complex. The firing lane stretches long and simple sand scrub and a single steel silhouette, 200 meters out. A light breeze toys with the range flags never steady for more than a breath. The ground crew has chalked distances. Spotter glass is set. The quiet is not empty. It is ready. Brigadier General Thomas Whitaker stands with the observers, arms loosely crossed, eyes on the lane. Beside him, Lieutenant Colonel Nora Hale works her checklist medics on standby comms, check green wind masts, reporting ammunition, audited safety flags up observers placed. 2 technicians confirm the north mast feed on a tablet. SPC. Brent Cole hovers near them, trying to look helpful. But Ethan Daniels clutches a small notebook. He has promised himself to write down anything he actually understands. Staff Sergeant Claire Ghost Whitfield kneels at the line with her Barrett M82A1 movements, unhurried and exact. She lays out her range card, checks the bipod, cant seats the magazine, and runs a dry press to feel the trigger break. She does not crowd the rifle. She lets it be a machine that wants to do one thing well. A range safety NCO steps close, reading from the tablet. Wind 10 knots west-northwest, he reports. Claire closes her eyes for a second and simply feels. The flag at the 400-meter mark lifts, drops, lifts again. More of 4 or 6 knot tees with short left-to-right pulls. Heat has not built enough to boil the mirage, but the low shimmer already leans right. She glances at the tablet. 10 W, then back downrange. Something does not match. Staff Sergeant Hale calls evenly. We will proceed with the official readings. Yes, ma'am. Claire answers, but I'd like the observers to note a discrepancy. The east mast is intermittent. The north mast shows a flat 10, but the flags in mirage show lighter shifting wind with brief veers. I'll call my hold on the real air, not the cached number. Cole masks a grin. Numbers are numbers, he mutters. Daniels hears it and looks toward the 400-meter flag again, unsure which teacher to trust, screen or sky. Whitaker's voice carries without force. Walk us through your process. Staff Sergeant, plain English. Claire nods steady. First, we confirm range 1,200 meters. Next, wind layers not just at the muzzle, but at 300, 600, 900. Flags, grass, dust each tells a piece. We factor density altitude today is modest, then a slight Coriolis nudge because the Earth is turning under a long flying bullet. The computer gives me a starting dope. The real wind makes the final call. Hale lifts her pen. Logged. Claire lifts the binocular tube and watches the tiny eddies of dust dance low to the ground rightward. She looks again at 600, a faint ripple across a strip of grass also rightward. At 900, a brief lull. She builds the hold in her head mild drift that will come and go in seconds. We wait for the window, she says mostly to Daniels, who is scribbling. Patience saves ammunition and sometimes lives. She settles behind the rifle. Stock, tucked elbows. Set heartbeat quiet. One long inhale, one long exhale. She takes up the slack until the wall. The lane contracts to a speck of painted steel in far light. The wind steadies, just for a blink, flags agreeing with the shimmer. Send it, Whitaker says softly. The Barrett speaks. The muzzle blast rolls downrange dust, lifting and settling as if startled, then soothed. For a heartbeat, there is only sound memory and the faint hiss of wind. Then the spotter's voice breaks. Impact center mass. The second observer echoes it on the radio. The lane holds its breath a beat longer, then exhales quiet noise. Not cheers, the sound of grown professionals remembering why they came. Whitaker raises his binoculars and confirms. He lowers them slowly. Face unreadable, but softer at the edges. Hale checks 2 boxes on her clipboard and adds a handwritten note. Observed real air wind call versus mast feed. She signals a technician. Audit the east mast and data cache. I want to know why a 10-knot steady was reported against variable flags. Cole's jaw works as if he has swallowed something that did not go down right. Daniels's pencil stops. He looks at Claire like a student who has finally seen the math happen. Claire comes up on a knee, clears the chamber, and safes the rifle. No fist pump, no flourish. She looks to Whitaker. That was remarkable, Staff Sergeant, he says. You claimed you could show proof without theater, and you did. But your tattoo says 250 meters. Can the same principles carry that far? They can, Claire answers. They just ask more of you. More wind reading. More patience. More time in flight. The bullet falls farther. The air has more chances to lie. You build a solution, then wait for the second the air tells the truth. The discipline is the same. Hale's skepticism does not vanish. It matures. Impressive work. We will document exactly what you did here. Inputs, calls, holds, and we will correct the instrumentation variance. She turns to the tech. If the mast is sound, trace the software cache. If it is not, take it offline until repaired. Whitaker lets the silence sit one more moment, then nods. The demonstration stands. We proceed to the next step. He does not explain the next step. Everyone in earshot knows the number on Claire's arm and the story it hints at. Claire wipes a small crescent of dust from the barrel crown and stows her tools. She looks downrange once more, not to admire the hit, but to memorize the feel of the morning's air, the way the flags and shimmer agreed at the last second. Seniors watching would recognize it, the habit of keeping what worked, not the noise that followed. Behind the line, Cole pretends to busy himself with a case he shut 10 minutes ago. Daniels drifts closer to Claire. Ma'am, he asks hopeful one day, could you show me how to see the wind like that? Claire nods. Start with the flag at 400, learn how it talks, then the grass at 600, then the shimmer at 900. When they agree, you pull the trigger. When they don't, you wait. Whitaker gathers the observers. We will brief in 30. Clean notes. No embellishment. If there was a data error, it will be corrected. If there was a person's error, that will be corrected too. His voice is not hard. It is exact. The range returns to its ordinary sounds, the scrape of boots, the quiet clank of cases. The full 200-meter plate bears a fresh mark, exactly where a heart would be drawn on a training target. It will be repainted before noon. The memory will not. Can Claire carry the same discipline across 3,250 meters and keep 11 other lives from breaking? Stay with her. Some distances require more than skill. They require patience that looks like faith. 12 lives. 1 window of wind. What did it cost to wait for that second? The office of Brigadier General Thomas Whitaker is spare and bright under fluorescent light, the kind of room where decisions carry farther than voices. He sits behind his desk with a file that looks ordinary until you open it. Inside are lines that read like a ledger of years. Staff Sergeant Claire Ghost Whitfield top marks at sniper school. Advanced long range, ballistic computation, reconnaissance, multiple deployments. And then, over and over, black bars where unit names and locations would be. One entry stills his thumb, a single engagement at 3,250 meters, 12 civilians saved. Ink does not usually have gravity. This line does. Across the complex in the armory's dim and familiar glow, Claire continues her careful ritual with the Barrett M82A1. The successful 200-meter demonstration has softened the room's edges. Whispers are fewer, and when they do come, they are quieter. Doubt has not vanished, but it has learned to lower its voice. Claire's hands keep their steady pace. Her face carries something you would not notice unless you have lived with it yourself, a memory that sits close and speaks when it wants. Whitaker closes the file and looks toward the door. "Send her in," he says. Lieutenant Collector Nora Hale stands beside him, arms folded, tablet tucked under one elbow. Skepticism remade into procedure after what she witnessed on the range. She has read the same file. The redactions bother her, not because she craves gossip, but because unknowns complicate safety. Claire steps in posture, straight eyes steady. The armory's oil and clank give way to paper and light. Whitaker's tone is different now, quieter, inviting facts rather than forcing them. "Staff Sergeant," he says, "your record cites a 250-meter engagement with 12 civilian hostages recovered alive. Tell me how." Claire hesitates, not from uncertainty, but from the discipline that comes with classified work. Whitaker nods once. The message is clear. Say what can be said, no more. She begins. 2 years ago, she says, Hindu Kush, near the Wakhan corridor. A small group of civilians, men, women, a child, were held on a narrow outcrop across a deep valley. Direct assault risked all of them. Terrain made approach impossible. I was overwatch for a special mission unit across the valley. She rests her hand on the back of the chair in front of her and does not sit. We had elevation. We had distance. We did not have time to be wrong. Hale's pen moves. Range confirmed how laser rangefinder then cross-checked by map and angle. Multiple observers verified. We built a firing solution with the computer, then waited to see if the air would agree. She lays it out in words a new recruit or an old rancher would understand. A shot that long isn't a trigger pull. It's a series of small agreements. Wind near us. Wind halfway there. Wind near the target. Density altitude. Thinner air makes the bullet fly a bit flatter. Temperature and pressure. And a slight Coriolis nudge, because the Earth is turning under that bullet during the several seconds it's in the air. The computer is the recipe. The land is the taste test. Hale glances up. Time in flight. Close to 5 seconds, Claire says. Long enough to hear your own breath and doubt both of you. She does not reach for drama. She reaches for the one thing that matters in every long-shot patience. I lay prone for about 4 hours. She says, watching flags we improvised from tape on a radio antenna, the mirage that looked like water, moving in a ditch, and dust that sometimes did not move at all. The wind kept lying left at the start, right in the middle, nothing at the end. We logged it. We waited. There was a child in the group. Waiting felt wrong. Waiting was the only way not to be wrong. Whitaker's hands are still. He has seen many kinds of courage. The quiet kind always lands hardest. What changed? The air agreed for a few seconds, Claire says. Flags at our ridge matched the shimmer halfway and the dust near them. I dialed elevation, held a touch. For drift, added the Coriolis correction and broke the shot between heartbeats. 150 caliber round. The man with the detonator fell backward. The team moved. No civilians were hit. 12 went home. Silence hangs a moment. The room hears what is not said, how long it takes to learn to trust waiting, how thin the window can be between too soon and too late. Hale clears her throat not to break the spell, but to do her job. Your file also notes you declined a promotion to officer last year, she says. That is uncommon. Would you explain? Claire's gaze stays level. I was offered the desk. It was an honor. But at my desk, I can save fewer people. Out here, if I do my job, someone's father goes home. Someone's grandmother gets one more birthday with the little ones. I don't need more authority to do that. I need more time under open sky. It is not sentiment. It is arithmetic in a different ledger. Whitaker leans forward, elbows on the desk, respect plain. You chose the harder path. I chose the closer one, Claire says. Closer to the outcome I care about. Hale's skepticism does not disappear. It evolves. She nods once. Your demonstration this morning was clean. Your explanation here is clear. I will request access to the full classified record through proper channels. Whitaker closes the folder gently, as if it were a fragile object. I will endorse that request, he says. If our service makes a soldier like you, we must know how to keep you and how to learn from you without turning you into a headline. Claire's shoulders ease a fraction. She thinks of a winter ridge in Wyoming, of her father's voice, telling her to read the wind when numbers disagree. She thinks of a narrow outcrop, a world away, and 12 people who woke the next morning because the wind and the waiting finally aligned. Whitaker writes a line in the small notebook he keeps for truths that do not fit in a memo. Some shots are not about distance. They are about restraint. He caps the pen. Dismissed, Staff Sergeant. He says softer than before. And thank you. Claire nods. Yes, sir. She turns to go, carrying the quiet with her, the way some people carry a hymn. Hale remains a moment longer. General, she says, we owe her the integrity of good instruments and good processes. The range masts will be audited. The software cache will be fixed. If there are gaps in training, we close them. It is not contrition. It is craftsmanship. Whitaker stands. Do it. And schedule a briefing for our senior NCOs. If patients saved 12 lives at 3,250 meters, patients can probably save a few here at home. Outside, the Idaho light is clean and high. In the armory, the Barrett gleams under fluorescence. Claire's tattoo is what it always was, a reminder, not a boast, a number that belongs as much to the saved as to the shooter. Why did Claire choose the harder path? Because sometimes the shortest distance between danger and home is a patient line through honest air. The loudest proof is often quiet, a clean rifle, a steady breath, and someone who made it home. In the familiar dim of the Sentinel Range Armory, Staff Sergeant Claire Ghost Whitfield sits once more at her bench hands, moving with the same patient care that has come to define her. The clank of metal and the faint scent of gun oil surround her, but the air is different now. The whispers that once gathered in corners have thinned to a respectful hush. At 28, her eyes carry a calm that does not come from praise. It comes from practice. 6 months after the 4,200-meter demonstration, Claire is forward deployed on a classified operation in a sun-baked valley. A special operations element is pinned by an L-shaped ambush. Retreat will only make the angle worse. From a shaded fold of rock, Claire settles in. The wind kicks grit across her cheek. She watches flags improvised from tape. The grass bend the low mirage that looks like water moving sideways. One measured shot folds the far gun. A second breaks the hinge of the ambush. The team withdraws in pairs, the valley giving them back. They will never know the name of the shooter who waited for the right second and then used it well. Claire slips away, a quiet worker in a loud trade. Back at Sentinel, the armory moves on a slower beat. SPC. Brent Cole, once the loudest skeptic, approaches her station with his cap in his hands. Staff Sergeant, he says, voice low. I was wrong about the stories about that number. You're the best shot I've seen. Claire pauses, fingers still on the barrel's cool steel. She meets his eyes with a gentleness that is also firm. Thank you, Specialist. What I need most is teammates who check their numbers and do their job right. Cole nods and leaves a little straighter than he came. Across the base, in a briefing room that smells of coffee and dry erase, Brigadier General Thomas Whitaker addresses a row of officers and senior NCOs. I overlooked a soldier because I trusted the wrong signals. He says not to shame anyone, but to instruct everyone. We will judge by process and performance, not by rumor, not by ego, not by convenience. Beside him, Lieutenant Colonel Barnora Hale runs through the improvements already in place, instrument audits, software, cache fixes, windmast maintenance observer, training plain English debriefs. What began as one demonstration has become a small reform. Fewer shortcuts, clearer notes, safer ranges. In the armory, Claire finishes her work. The Barrett M82A1 lies clean and ready. She sets the rifle down, and for a moment her thoughts drift home to a winter ridge in Wyoming. Her father's voice in the cold, when numbers and wind disagree, let the wind win. She touches the small tattoo on her forearm. To some, it looks like a boast. To her, it reads like a ledger. Entry 3,250 meters a morning, when patience and air agreed 12 lives that saw another sunrise. Claire does not collect headlines. She collects habits. Measure honestly. Wait when you should act when you must. The heroism is not in the noise of the shot. It is in the quiet that came before it, the refusing of shortcuts, the respect for real wind over easy numbers, the choice to do one thing well for someone you will never meet. I don't celebrate distance. I celebrate restraint, the pause that kept 12 people alive. Claire reminds me that skill without patience is a trick, and patience without purpose is delay. The work is to hold both craft and conscience. If this story left you breathing a little slower, that's the point. We honor the unsung, not by clapping loud, but by doing our own work cleanly when no one is watching. If Claire's quiet courage resonated, please like the video so more people see it. Subscribe to the channel for more true North stories of patience and purpose, and share it with someone who values craft done well. I'd love to hear from you. Comment below. With a moment of quiet break.